Okay, so hello everyone. I have just recently travelled to the US a few days ago, so I thought I'd make this update video on my personal experience and include everything that you need and any tips that I might have for you if you're travelling to America anytime soon. So before we start, I will link everything I mention down below. Things can also change, so if anything does change, I will try my best to put an update in the description, or I will pin a comment below. But again, I recommend you check all the links yourself just in case anything has changed or is different for your circumstances. If this video helps you, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like and you could hit the subscribe button. So with that, let's get on to the video. So to get into the US, you need three things, and I'm going to go into these three things in a lot more detail in a minute, but let's just quickly see what you need. So first of all, you will need to be fully vaccinated. Second, you will either need to take a negative COVID test or have proof of recovery. And finally, you need to complete the attestation form. So I flew with Virgin Atlantic, and some things will vary based on the airline you fly. So I can only talk about my experience with them, but a lot of things should be pretty similar. So let's go into what's needed for proof of vaccination. So with proof of vaccination, you must have either received 1 dose of the J&J vaccine or 2 doses of an approved vaccine. So this is the current list of the accepted vaccines. At the moment, there is no requirement for a booster dose. You are considered fully vaccinated with just 1 dose of the J&J vaccine or 2 doses of any of these vaccines. And finally, your last dose must have been given a full 14 days before the day you board your flight to the US. So that's the only timing thing with vaccines when it comes to travelling to the US. So just make sure you received your last dose over 2 weeks ago. So being from the UK, I just use my NHS COVID pass. You can use this on your phone, on the app, or you can print it out. I printed out the PDF versions. There are some exemptions to being fully vaccinated or not being fully vaccinated, and I will put the link down below. So the second thing you need is proof of a negative COVID test. Now this can either be a PCR test or an antigen test, and it must be taken no more than 1 day before travel. So for this reason, I do recommend you take an antigen test, as you get your results much sooner, normally within an hour, and they're also generally cheaper. But if you do decide to go down the antigen test route, then please note that this test must be supervised. So this means you either need to take it on video with a healthcare provider, or you can take it in person in like a clinic. I will link some recommended and cheap providers down below. An alternative to taking a negative test, you can go down the proof of recovery route. I have made a video on this which you can watch up here. And in that video, I go just into what you need for proof of recovery and all that in a lot more detail, because that's what I did when I recently travelled. So if you are considering that option, I do recommend you check out that video. I'll also link it down below. So this route can be a bit more confusing just because a couple more things are needed. So for documentation of recovery, you must have evidence of a positive test within the last 90 days. And on top of this, you need a letter from your healthcare provider or a public health official that clears you to travel. This letter must be signed and dated and contains the name, address and phone number of the healthcare provider or public health official who signed the letter. So you have 2 options with this. You can get this from a company that issues private recovery certificates, or you can ask your GP. Either way though, they typically cost between £40 and £100. I used a company called The Healthify, and I'll link their details down below. And finally, the last thing you will need is to complete the attestation form. Now, how you go about this does vary by airline. Many airlines will allow you to do this online on their website. Virgin gave me this option. If they don't give you this option or you are unsure, then you can print it off online. It is 7 pages long, but there's only like 2 boxes you need to tick, and then you just have to sign the end of it. So again, I will link that below as well. It basically just states that you're fully vaccinated and you took a negative test, or you're travelling with proof of recovery. So onto my experience. So like I said, this will vary on airline, but for me, all of my COVID documents were checked at check-in. Some airlines you can upload all your documents online, which will speed up the process. Like I know British Airways have the Verify app, and Virgin use something else called FlyReady. But with Virgin, you could only upload your vaccine records and your negative test. It wouldn't accept proof of recovery, so using that you had to check in normally. But I would definitely recommend, if like your airline offers something that will validate your documents before you fly, to use that, because it does speed up the process a lot. When showing your documents, you can show them digitally or you can print them off. I just prefer to print everything off, just because I find it a lot more easier just to give them like each thing that they ask for, rather than like searching through on my phone to get each thing and then get the next thing. I just find it easier. And also, if like something happens, like say the NHS website doesn't work, then like you already have your vaccination records printed out. So it's just like a backup if anything goes wrong as well. But like I said, it's totally your choice. And this was the only time my COVID documents were checked during the whole process. I would recommend that you leave yourself plenty of time to check in, because it can take a lot longer with the COVID stuff. It took me, to get through check-in and security together, it took me about an hour, so definitely leave yourself plenty of time. For me, nothing COVID related was checked at the gate. It was just passport and boarding pass. And then once we arrived in America, again, no COVID documents were checked. It was just the normal stuff when you go through customs, just like your passport, visa, your fingerprints, picture, and just answering the questions, just normal stuff. Like I said, no COVID documents were asked for. Again, I was only ever asked to show my COVID documents at check-in. And that's it, you're in America. So it's very unlikely that they'll check your documents once you're in America. Most of the stuff is done before you board. So yeah, the only time they checked my documents was at check-in, nothing in America. It was all really easy, honestly. And I think most airlines, because this has been going on for a while now, have like a good process to deal with all of this with. But like I said, just make sure you leave yourself plenty of time. A couple of tips I have would just be to be organised, have everything ready to show whoever you need to show when asked for it, whether that's at the check-in desk or in the check-in line, because you don't want to be that one that's stood there holding everyone up whilst you try to find everything on your phone. So just be organised, be ready. And then another tip I have is, if you are going down the testing route, make sure the test is supervised, and also make sure you're taking it in that time window, because they are strict on this, so just make sure you're taking it within that one day. I think that pretty much covers everything. Any questions you may have, feel free to ask them down below, or you can reach out to me on any of my socials, and I will do my best to get back to you as best and as quick as I can. If this video did help, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like and you could hit that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching, stay safe and happy travelling!